I'm the panelist today. I am Devang Thakkar and I'm in insolvency profession, a registered valuer, MBA Finance from NMIMS, and a company secretary also. Among the other panelists, we have Mr. Praveen Bansal. He's a 1985 CA, IP, and a registered value, all based in New Delhi. He has a multi-dimensional experience of working in a senior position in organizations like GSCL Limited, Quorum International, AF Ferguson and Company for about 30 years. He's also a partner in a CA firm specializing in investigation and forensic audit. He's also associated with ABB Associate CA firm specializing in international trade policy. He's the chief advisor of a disputed Powerless Consultant Private Limited, a consultancy firm engaged in the business of consultancy and IT solution. He has been working in insolvency domain for the last 9 years and handled more than 40 assignments. He has successfully resolved and implemented 5 assignments, including 2 from the Lango Group of companies as a RP. He is the force behind landmark judgment of the Supreme Court in Rama Ispat Private Limited versus PVVNL on creation of security charges on legal provisions. He is the owner of a full service insolvency firm named PB Insolvency Consultant, providing end-to-end solution and services to banking, creditors, investment, and promoters. Welcome, Mr. Praveen G.
Thank you.
Bansal.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Mr. Bansal would give his comments
Yes, ma'am.
on the vital or the critical part of the judgment.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Palak Lamba. I will be presenting important judgment under IBC. So, the table of content, I have total 10 cases and 2 disciplinary orders. So, first case is Indian Bank versus Anjiri Kumar Lakotia and others, quote NCLT, date 21st May 2025. The fact of the cases are MBL Infrastructure Limited took loan from a group of banks, including Indian Bank and SBI. On 30th March 2017, insolvency proceeding was started against the company CIRP under the IBC 2016. On 22nd November 2017, Anjiri Kumar Lakotia, the company's promoter, submitted a resolution plan to save the company. This plan was approved by NCLT Kolkata on 18th April 2018, later also approved by the Supreme Court on 18 January 2022. As a part of the resolution plan, a new personal guarantor was signed by Lakotia on 4 July 2024. In 2023, Indian Bank filed a case under Section 95 that allows a lender to file a case to get back money from someone who promised to pay if a company fails to repay the loan. So, in the IBC, to begin personal insolvency proceeding against Lakotia based on his old personal guarantee from before the resolution plan. On 24th January 2025, the NCLT rejected Indian Bank application. So the parties were involved: Indian Bank, Anjiri Kumar Lakhotia, and the Roshan Lal. The main issue were whether Indian Bank can initiate personal insolvency proceeding under 95 of the IBC 2016 against Anjiri Kumar Lakhotia based on the old personal guarantor, even after resolution plan has been approved and a new guarantor has been signed. So the arguments made by both the parties were: Indian Bank's arguments are the old guarantor given before 2017 is still valid. Just because a resolution plan was approved doesn't mean the personal guarantor obligation are cancelled. As under Section 95 of the IBC, we can start a personal insolvency case against Lakhotia to recover the money. As Lakhotia's arguments were made that the resolution plan approved in 2018 and a new guarantor signed in 2024 replaced the old one. As you can't use something that is no longer valid, the old guarantor, to file the new case. Since a new guarantor was signed, the old one cannot use it to file a new case. The final judgment came here. The old guarantor was replaced by the new one, signed on 4th July 2024. Since the resolution plan was approved and the new agreement was signed, the old guarantor become invalid. Indian Bank cannot use the old guarantor to start personal insolvency proceeding. Indian Bank, as a distinction creditor, can only liquidation value, not full claim recovery. The final judgment came by the NCLAT that Indian Bank's appeal was dismissed by NCLAT. The court confirmed that the old guarantor no longer applies. Only the new guarantor 2024 is valid. Indian Bank cannot file a case, Section 95 case, based on the extinction guarantee. So the conclusion of the case is, since a new personal guarantor was assigned in 2024 as part of the court approval resolution plan, the old guarantor given before 2017 become invalid. Indian Bank cannot rely on the old guarantee to initiate personal insolvency proceeding under Section 95 of the IBC because Indian Bank opposed the resolution plan. Its claim is limited to liquidation value, what it would receive if the company were liquidated, nothing more. So our next case is Asha Basanti Lal Surhana versus State Bank of India and others, quote NCLT, Delhi. Date is 15th May 2025. Fact of the cases are Asha Basanti Lal Surhana had given a personal guarantee for a company named Surhana's Metacast India Private Limited, which took a loan from State Bank of India. The company failed to repay the loan and it became a non-performing asset, NPA, on 1 May 2023. SBI sent a notice under Section 13 Clause 2 of the Safaris Act on 9 October 2023 asking the company and Asha to pay 28.56 crores. SBI took possession of the company's asset and issued a sale notice on 5 August 2024. After receiving this demand notice, Asha filed a petition under Section 94 Clause 1 of the Insolvency and the Bankruptcy Code on 22nd August 2024. She wanted to declare herself as insolvent because she couldn't pay the guaranteed amount. As the issue raised in this case, that was the personal guarantor actually invoked through the Section 13 Clause 2 notice from SBI? Could Asha file a petition insolvency under Section 94 Clause 1 of the IBC after getting the notice? Was her application valid too early? So here, the arguments made by both parties, the Asha, the appellant, argued that the demand notice clearly asked her to pay, which means her personal guarantee was invoked. Because of that, she had the right to file her personal insolvency under IBC. The NCLT lower court wrongly dismissed her petition without appointing a resolution professional. SBI argued that a simple Safaris notice doesn't mean the guarantee was invoked. Since there was no further action taken against Asha, the petition was premature. Asha had no legal reason to file the personal insolvency case yet. So the order came by the NCLT, the higher court said, yes, the personal guarantor was properly invoked because the bank directly asked Asha to pay the dues. So Asha had a valid cause of action to file her insolvency case. The NCLT lower court was wrong in rejecting her case. The case is now sent back to the NCLT, which must appoint a resolution professional and start a personal insolvency process properly. So the conclusion arises here that a personal guarantor like Asha Surhana can start insolvency proceeding under Section 94 Clause 1 that allows a person who is unable to repay their debt to apply for insolvency and ask for legal help to resolve it of the IBC. as soon as the bank issue a section 13 clause 2 that states that the bank gives 60 days notice to the borrower to repay the loan, or else it can take the property to recover the money, demanding payment from them. The guarantor doesn't have to wait for the bank to take possession of asset or being a sale under Safaris Act. Therefore, the NCLAT said the earlier rejection of her application by NCLT that is was premature, was incorrect, and the guarantor is allowed to proceed with the insolvency case. So our next case is Vashist Builders versus Trishul Dream Homes Limited. The order came on 20th May 2025 in NCLAT. The fact of the cases were that Trishul Dream Homes was in financial trouble. A legal estate company was unable to pay its debt. Because of this, the corporate insolvency resolution process was started against it under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Court IBC on 16 June 2023. The NCLT Chandigarh bench admitted the case and appointed a resolution profession to manage the process. Vashist Consortium came forward to rescue the company. A consortium of two companies, Vashist Builders and Engineers Limited and Vashist Estate Limited, resolution plan on 26 February 2024. Their plan explained how they would review the company and pay off its creditor, home buyers, financial institute, etc. The creditor approved the rescue plan. The plan was received by the COC, which includes banks and home buyers. On 28 February 2024, the COC approved the plan with a large majority, 91.55 vote. This meant most of the creditors supported the plan. Application filed in NCLT and final approval. After the COC approved the plan, the RP filed it with NCLT Chandigarh for final approval on 11th March 2024. NCLT rejected the plan on 23rd April 2025. The NCLT rejected the plan. It raised doubt the valuation of some asset, whether the communication with all creditor was done properly. The clause about how money from past fraudulent transaction would be used appeal filed in NCLAT. The Vashist Consortium RT and COC filed an appeal in the NCLT New Delhi. They said the plan followed all rules and NCLT wrongly interfered in the COC's decision. So the arguments made by the parties that we followed all the rules and regulation of IBC, valuation was done properly by registered expert, creditors were informed on time, nobody raised objection before, the creditor decision called commercial wisdom should be respected. Supreme Court has also said this in a past cases. The issue were whether the NCLT was right in rejecting the resolution plan approved by the COC with 91.55 vote. Whether the NCLT can interfere the commercial wisdom of the COC. The judgment came by the court is the higher court NCLAT said the lower court was wrong to reject the plan. Valuation was proper and accepted by the COC. Communication with creditor was done as per rules. The plan followed the law, especially section 30 clause 2 of IBC. The court cannot question the COC's business decision unless something is clearly illegal. Money recovered later can be handled as per the plan that allows by the rule. The final judgment of the NCLT approved the appeal. The rejection by the NCLT was cancelled. The plan submitted by Vashist Consortium should now be approved and implemented immediately. The conclusion came here. The resolution plan, which was approved by the COC with over 91% support and compiled with all IBC rules, must be accepted by the court. The lower court, NCLT, was wrong to reject the plan on grounds like asset valuation, creditors, communication, and how further recovered money is handled. The NCLAT emphasized that under the IBC and Supreme Court decision and judgment of the COC holds, and court should not interfere if the plan follows the law. The NCLAT therefore overturned the NCLT's rejection and instructed the NCLT to approve the implement the plan. So our next case is Max Publicity and Communication Private Limited versus Enviro Home Solution Private Limited. The case held on 15th May to 2025 and in the court NCLAT New Delhi. The fact of the cases arises here that Enviro Home Solution said it had supplied goods worth 14.45 crore to Max Publicity between the August and December. Since the payment wasn't made, Enviro filed a case under Section 9 of the Insolvency Bankruptcy Code IBC at NCLT Mumbai to start insolvency against Max Publicity. But on 21st January 2025, the NCLT rejected the case, saying the debt looked disputed, not clear cut. So this is not a fit case for the insolvency under IBC. While rejecting the case, the NCLT also said there seems to be a fraud in how CSR, corporate social responsibility money was used. Invoices and vendors looked faked. So NCLT forwarded its order to government agency like ROC, Income Tax Department, SFIO, EOW, Economic Officers Wings. And the issue raised here, can the NCLT directly ask agencies like SFIO to investigate a company just because it suspected fraud without giving the company a chance to explain? The arguments raised by the party that NCLT was only supposed to decide the insolvency case. It should not have sent the order to SFIO or income tax. NCLT didn't even ask us for our side before calling it fraud. Only the central government can ask SFIO to investigate, not the NCLT. Environment said their argument NCLT didn't order an investigation, it only forwarded it judgment to authorities. NCLT has power under company law to report suspicious activities. It's okay for NCLT to share the order with government agency if it sees something wrong. The order came by the higher court is that yes, NCLT can forward a judgment to authorities like ROC, Income Tax Department, or SFIO if it sees signs of fraud. But NCLT cannot directly order SFIO or any agency to start investigation. That power belongs only to central government under the Section 212 of Companies Act. Also, before making such strong comments about fraud, NCLT should have given Max Publicity a chance to explain. This is called natural justice. So the court allowed part of the appeal, cancelled the strong direction to SFIO, but said it's okay to send the judgment to agencies for them to decide the next step. The conclusion of this case is the NCLAT clarifies that while the NCLT may forward its order to investigating bodies, it cannot directly order the SFIO to investigate. A proper request must go through the central government under the Companies Act, Supreme today. The tribunal emphasized that investigative powers under 213 Companies Act required following dues, including provided fair hearing to the company. It also noted that NCLT's inherited power under Rule 11 may be used to merely share information with investigative agency, but it should not substitute for formal referral under Companies Act. So, our next case is National Export Exchange Limited versus Union of Indian and others. So, the case of the fact is NSEL, National Export Exchange Limited, was a company where people invested their money to trade commodities like rice, wheat, oil, etc. In 2013, the company collapsed and failed to return 5,600 crore to more than 30,000 investors. This because one of the Indian's biggest financial scams, the Maharashtra government used PID Act, a law to protect depositors from fraud, to take control NCL's property, sell the asset, and give the money back to the investors. The issue raised in this case, whether a company like NSEL is going through insolvency, can the state government still use its power under the MPID Act to take over the sales and the company's property? The arguments made by the parties, the NSEL said, we are protected by IBC Modern Section 14. No one can take our asset once insolvency has started. The MPID Act also, the MPGI Act should stop because IBC is a central law and it overrides the state laws. The MPID Act is to protect innocent investor who lost their money. The IBC and MPID can work together. IBC deal with companies, but MPID deals with the fraud and scams. They are not in conflict. So the order came by the court is that MPID Act and the IBC can work together. There is no clash between them. State governments can take NSEL's asset under MPID Act even if the companies is in insolvency. The Supreme Court on committee can continue selling property and giving back money to investors. IBC's Section 14 that states that when a company goes into insolvency, all court cases, recoveries, or action against it are put on hold for some time. Does not stop MPID action. So the conclusion came here that the Supreme Court said that if the state government like Maharashtra has already taken attached a company's property under the MPID Act, a law to protect investor who lost money, then banks or lenders cannot take the same property to recover their loans. Even if the company goes into insolvency under IBC, the IBC law cannot stop or cancel the state government action if the property was already taken before insolvency started. So, our next case is Taguda Private Limited versus State Bank of India and another 2025. The the judgment of the case held on 30th May 2025 in NCLAT, Delhi. This case is about whether a company's resolution plan can still be used if it is not approved by the court within 1 year, even if the plan was already approved by the creditor. So the fact of the cases arises here that Tuguda Private Limited submitted a resolution plan, a plan to take over and save a company. The plan was approved by the COC, the bank, and the lenders, including the SBI. But the plan also need final approval from the court called NCLT, National Company Law Tribunal. As per the law, Section 31, Clause 4 of the IBC, this court approval must be happen within 1 year from the date of the COC approved the plan. In this case, the 1 year deadline passed and the NCLT had not approved the plan. Taguda said, we can still go ahead with the plan. SBI said, no, the plan is now invalid because the court didn't approve it in time. So the issue arises in this case that can a resolution plan be used after 1 year, even through the law says it must be approved within 1 year. So the order came by the court is no, the law is very clear. The plan must be approved by NCLT within 1 year. Even if the creditors like SBI are okay with the delay, they cannot change the law. So, because more than 1 year had passed, the plan is no longer valid. The 1 year limitation period for filing before the NCLT is directly in nature and not mandatory. So the conclusion came here about this case is Taguda company promised to take over another company but didn't complete the process on time. The law says they had to get all approvals like from RBI and start the plan within 1 year. But Taguda waited too long and didn't follow the rules. If the company to take over if you promise to take over a company through insolvency, you must finish all work in time. If not, the deal is cancelled. So, our next case is Indian Bank's Trust Assessment Management Branch versus KR Tirumuruha Court. Uh, NCLT Chennai bench and the date of the order is 4 June 2025. This case is about whether two different banks can file separate insolvency case at the same time against the same person who gave a personal guarantor for a company loan. So the fact of the cases arises here is that a company took a loan from Indian Bank and also from IDBI Bank. Mr. KR Tirumuruwa was personal guarantor for those loans, which means he promised to pay if the company failed. The company defaulted on its loan. IDBI Bank was the first to file the insolvency case under Section 95 that allows a lender to file a case to get back money from someone who promised to pay if a company fails to repay the loan against Mr. Tirumuruha. Later, Indian Bank also filed its own separate case under the same case, Section 95, against the same person. The issue arises here in this case that can Indian Bank file a second insolvency case against Mr. Tirumuruha when one case is already going on from IDBI Bank? So the arguments made by the parties are Indian Bank said we are different creditors and we have a different loan. We should have a right to file our own case even if another one is already going on. The law should all allow every lender to take separate action. IDBI Bank argues that Section 96 of the IBC clearly says once a proceeding is started, no second application can be admitted against the same guarantor. Multiple cases lead to confusion and waste resources. So the order came by the court is on June 2025, the NCLAT Appellate Tribunal gave its decision. The court agrees with IDBI Bank and the NCLT that Section 96 is very clear. It puts a pause on all other insolvency cases once one case is already filed against the guarantor. So Indian Bank case cannot continue. The earlier case by IDBI Bank stays active and the Indian Bank can wait or join the process. So the conclusion came here after all the case is that Indian Bank wanted to start a case against Mr. Tirumuruwa, the personal guarantor, to recover loan. But another bank, IDBI, had already filed a case against the same person for the same loan. The law, Section 96 of the IBC, says you can't file another case once a personal insolvency case is already going on the same person. So the court said Indian Bank cannot start a new case. There there's already one case going on, so this one is not allowed. So our next case is Narzu S. Basir versus Pencard Club Limited and others. in the court, NCL 80 New Delhi. The date of the order is 30th May 2025. This case is about a person, Mr. Narzu S. Basir, uh, who was running a hotel and restaurant inside a building that belongs to a company called Pencard Club Limited. But when the company Pencard Club went into insolvency bankruptcy process, the person was asked to leave the property, but he refused. So, fact of the cases are here that in 2017, Mr. Basir signed a deal with Pencard Club Limited to run a hotel and restaurant for 6 years, from 2017 to 2023. In 2022, Pencard Club Limited went into insolvency. That means it was unable to pay its debt, and court appointed a resolution professional to take control. This started a pause on all the activity as per the section 14 of the IBC. The resolution professional asked Mr. Basir to leave the hotel property and hand it back. But Mr. Basir didn't leave. He said, I invested in the hotel. My 6 years should start from 2021, not 2017. You never refused to extend the contract, so I should be allowed to continue. So the issue arises in this case that can Mr. Basir stay in the hotel after 6 years term expired in 2023, especially when the company had already gone into insolvency. So the order came by the court is that the agreement clearly stated in 2017 started in 2017 and ended in 2023. So Mr. Basir had no legal right to stay after that. Just because the agreement wasn't cancelled doesn't mean it was extended. The company was under insolvency. No right can be created or extended during that time. The NCLT still has power to ask people to vacate even after a resolution plan is approved. Under section 60 of the IBC, Mr. Basir has to vacate the hotel immediately. So the conclusion of the case arises here is that SEBI told Pencard Club Limited to return money to investor because they ran an illegal investment scheme. Pencard Club didn't follow SEBI's order, so SEBI started legal action and took control of some of their properties. An investor, Narzu S. Basir, asked the court to start insolvency proceeding against Pencard Club. The court said yes and allowed the insolvency case to go ahead. The court also said that even during insolvency, if some property do not belong to the company, those property can take away or evicted. So our next case is Anil Kumar Seth, suspended director Supercast Technology Private Limited versus Valap's Technology Private Limited and another. The court is NCLT and the date of the order is 26th May 2025. This case is about a company called Supercast Technology Private Limited for service or goods provided. Walap's filed a case under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy IBC under Section 9 to start the insolvency process against the Supercast. Anil Kumar Seth, who was the director of the Supercast, opposed this. So the fact of the cases arises here. Valap sent a demand notice asking for payment from Supercast. Supercast did not reply within 10 days as per the requirement under IBC. So Valaps went to NCLT tribunal to start the insolvency case. The issue arises in this case, can a company avoid insolvency proceeding if there was already a dispute about the payment before the case was filed, even if the company didn't repay the demand notice? The order came here that the NCLT agree with Anil Kumar Seth. If there is a legal dispute, the case should not continue even if there was no reply to the notice. The tribunal must look at any proof of dispute, emails, letters, etc. before making a decision. The case was sent back to NCLT to recheck everything properly. The conclusion of this case is that before starting insolvency proceeding, the creditor must send a notice to the company's corporate debtor. Even if the company does not reply to the notice, the court NCLT should still check carefully if there is any dispute between the parties that exist before the notice. In this case, the higher court NCLAT said the lower court NCLT didn't check this properly and sent the case back to lower court for a fresh look. So our next case is Strive Indian Enterprises Solution Limited Creditors versus BJM Telecommunication Private Limited debtors. The court NCLT New Delhi, and the date of the order is 29th May 2025. So, Drive India case is a company that sold telecom equipment like batteries, kits to BJM Telecom Communication between 2017 and 2022. BGM didn't pay 35.75 crores, so Drive India filed a case under the Section 9 of the IBC asking the court to start the insolvency proceeding against BJM. So the fact of the cases are here that Drive India is a company that sold telecom equipments like batteries and kit to BJM Telecoms between 2017 and 2022. BJM didn't pay rupees 35.57 crores. So, Drive India filed a case under Section 9 of the IBC asking the court to start the insolvency proceeding against BJM. The NCLT dismissed the case on 18th October 2023. Why? Because Drive India had previously filed similar cases against other companies and those were also dismissed. So the NCLT assumed this case might not be genuine either. So the issue arises in this case that can a court reject a new insolvency case just because earlier case by the same creditor was dismissed even when this case has different facts? So the arguments arises here by the parties that Drive India, the one who filed the case. Yes, we filed earlier case, but those were against other companies for different contracts. This case is separate and valid. BGM still owe us money. The NCLT should have examined this case on its own instead of judging by our past cases. BGM Telecommunication said they likely support the NCLT's order. They may have said that this is part of patent and tried to show there was a dispute or no valid debt. The order came here by the court is the NCLAT appellant court disagree with the NCLT and said just because Strive India had earlier case dismissed doesn't mean this case is invalid. Every case must be judged by its own facts. NCLT was wrong to reject the case without properly hearing both sides, so looking at the documents. The case is now sent back to NCLT to hear both the side properly, go through all the contracts and documents between them, then decide whether the insolvency should begin or not. The conclusion of this case is Drive India filed a case to start insolvency against BGM Telecom because BGM owns money. The lower court NCLT rejected the case because it looked at other old case with different companies. The higher court NCLAT said this was wrong. Every case is different and should be looked at separately. So NCLAT told the lower court to reconsider the case fairly based on the facts of this specific situation. So now these are the case and the court and the judgment given by the courts. So I will be continuing to the disciplinary order that what is the issue of the disciplinary order, and when the order made, and in the court IBBI. So our first disciplinary summary of disciplinary order is uh, on on 11 June 2025. The fact of the cases arises here is that RP was appointed for a company called Richa Industry Limited when it went into insolvency in December 2018. Later, two companies were made against him, one in May 2023 and another in November 2024. Based on these complaints, IBBI conducted an investigation and sent two showcases notice to RP asking to explain his action. So the key allegation and findings that admitted a wrong creditor claim. He allowed a creditor claim of over 7 crore without full supporting documents. He didn't give proper explanation when asked about this during the investigation. Lets the old director run the business. During the insolvency process, the company's old director, Mr. Sandeep Gupta, whose power was suspended, was still running the project. This was not approved by the lender COC, which is required. Even when the CBI raised the director in December 2019, RP didn't stop his involvement. The third, unnecessary and improper expenses to 21.61 lakh was spent on travel and car for the old director. The car insurance was an old director name, not the company's name. Once hotel bill was issued to another company linked with the creditor, there was no official contract to show old director was allowed to be reimbursed. The RP defends here that he claimed that he didn't give any authority to run things. The company's old staff was just working in regular rules. The expenses were part of the business process, but the committee found his answer vague and not satisfactory. The order came here that the committee said that RP broke multiple rules under the IBC. He failed in his duty as a resolution professional. The committee accepted the investigation report and said RP violated Section 25, Section 28, and 208 of the IBC and the Regulation 7 of the IP regulation, Code of Conduct of IPs, specially clause related to integrity and professionalism. However, the order did not mention the exact punishment like fine, warning, or suspension. In part shown, only the scans matter were concluded. So the conclusion came here that the insolvency professional did not follow the rules properly. They accepted wrong and high claims without checking carefully. They let a suspended director take the charge without asking the right people. They didn't fully help during the investigation. Because of these mistakes, the committee decided to stop them from working as an insolvency professional for 2 years. This means they can't do insolvency work for 2 years. The decision was shared with all important authorities and the people involved. So our next summary of disciplinary order held on 9 June 2025. Fact of the cases are appointed as RP for personal guarantor of a loan taken by Deccan Chloric Holdings Limited, required by law to verify if demand notice were properly served by the creditors, Central Bank of India, before admitting insolvency proceeding. NCLT found notice were not served correctly and that Mr. Prasad didn't verify this fact, lending to possible wrongful admission. The key allegation arises here that rejecting a loan case based on the improperly served demand notice but failing to verify service before reporting to court, neglecting to do necessary check under section 94 clause 4. Demand notice and repayment within 14 days must be verified. Section 99, RP must examine such verification. Section 208 clause 2 subclause A and subclause E, duties owned by IPs violating professional integrity, especially on due diligence and accuracy. The followed the key timelines. The bank's notice October 2021 was returned undelivered. RP did not verify service before declaring it valid. Notice were sent later after the initial judicial filing. The RP did not check important facts such as that the same address was already seized under Safaris Act. Alternative correct address existed and was not used. Thus, his report was found incorrect and deficient, violating due diligence responsibilities. Violation confirmed under IBC Section 95, Clause 4, 99, 208, Clause 2, Subclause A and Subclause E, the IP Regulation 7, Clause 2, Subclause A, 7, Clause 2, Subclause H, Code of Conduct, Clause 2 and 14. The order came by the court is RP's authorization for assessment is suspended immediately until 4 August 2025, when renewal would have otherwise been due. The conclusion of the summary is the insolvency professional was found guilty of not following the rules of the IBC and related regulation. They failed to act diligently and transparently during the insolvency process. They also did not cooperate properly with the investigation conducted by the regulatory authority. Because of these violations, the disciplinary committee suspended the insolvency professional registration for 2 years. This means they cannot work as insolvency professional during the suspension period. The the order was communicated to all relevant authorities and stakeholders for further necessary actions. Thank you, everyone.
Gee, one query. If the IP is suspended for 2 years, after he comes after 2 years, he stands the same status or a different status?
He stands same status as the RP only.
So, Bansalji, your comments?
सर यही होगा ना सर. Suspension essentially would mean that you cannot take a case during that period, and once your suspension period is over, then you have got the same rights. No question change.
After 2 years, he can take any case.
Sorry.
After 2 years, once he comes back, he can take any case. There's no restriction.
There is no restriction. That's right.
Okay, fine. Bansalji, you would like to summarize or give your opinion? इसमें
Sorry.
ये सब cases में can you give your opinion or something how a case is going and other things?
जो डिसीजन आए हैं उनके बारे में करेक्ट.
हाँ.
आप एक काम करिए, जो फर्स्ट स्लाइड्स है पलक, if you can just quickly
Yes, sir.
that summary.
Yes, sir.
I will run through quickly for everyone.
Yes, sir. Summary of the cases. No?
Yes, summary वाले. First slide. Yes, after this.
No, sir. It's the issue of not the judgments.
Not at all. Just show it to me.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. First judgment is basically Indian Bank versus Anjani Kumar Lakhotia NCLT judgment. They are correct. Here, the issue basically, which was a deciding factor, was like this: that resolution plan was submitted by promoter and approved. That's the point number one. Point number two. Of course, the promoter has got the PG issued to the bank. Point number two. Number three, after the resolution plan was approved, okay, he gave the another PG. PG means personal guarantee, correct? What Indian Bank did? Indian Bank initiated invoke the bank guarantee, invoke the personal guarantee, okay, and then filed the Section 7 application. Invoke the personal guarantee and file the application against the. Here the key issue is that logic that after the here the key issue was that after the personal guarantee has been replaced, then whether just keep the same, whether based on the old PG, the insolvency of the promoter can be initiated. So answer was no, because it is the PG is no more valid. In the case of the second case, Asha Basanti Surana versus State Bank of India, here the issue was basically 32 notice was issued under surfacing. Okay. Question was that once the 32 notice has been issued, whether it amounts to the invocation of the bank personal guarantee, and accordingly whether the insolvency can be initiated. Here the smart thing which has been done was that the personal guarantor himself started the file for the insolvency. So that is item number 2. Item number 3 comes in. Here the resolution plan, there was some resolution plan was there. There was a value for that. What NCLT did is they basically worked out their working. They believed that the valuation of the assets is low. So based on that, they said resolution plan get rejected. So here the NCLT said no, it's a commercial wisdom, of the COC that is supreme. NCLT cannot interfere. Hence, they said that issue plan rejection has to be the registration plan cannot be rejected. That's all right. So yeah, I'll just explain the three items. If any audience has any question, then they can come. Yeah, they can read it so that we can start taking that. दिवांग जी या तो क्वेरी ले लीजिए स्ट्रेट so that interaction start of otherwise it becomes
any query, any participants? There no queries have been raised. So can we conclude, Bansalji?
Yeah, I think better.
Yeah. Thank you, Palak, for a nice presentation. Thank you, Bansalji, for your expert advice. Thank you all participants for your time.